everyone, and welcome back to I Tell You, the Miss Nigeria in America video response to questions submitted by you, the viewer. So without any further hesitation, let's get to the questions for this week. We have 4 questions again submitted by 2 gentlemen this time. The first one is Kola, and the second one is Ronke. Now, I have to say, when I am aware of the fact that I know personally the person who submitted the question, I have to acknowledge them. And so, Kola, here's my shout out to you. Hi, neighbor. Won't you be my neighbor? Yes, Kola is my neighbor. So, hi, Kola, and hi to his entire family, the Ogulanas. So, thank you, Kola, for submitting your question. Your question, Kola wants to know, where do you see Nigeria in 20 years in terms of development? And will Nigerians in the diaspora move back? Where do I see Nigeria in the next 20 years? I have to begin by saying that I am an optimist. So I have high hopes and big plans for Nigeria and for the entire continent in 20 years. I mean, 20 years is a long time. And look at the big accomplishments that, America, and I know, granted, that we're talking about 2 different situations, apples to oranges here, but the development and in America in the last, couple of years has been significant. So to talk about what I foresee for a country in the next 20 years, I mean, it has to be a complete 180. But I definitely don't think that this question can be answered on its own. It has to be answered in conjunction with Kola's second question concerning whether or not Nigerians in the diaspora will move back. And that reminds me of what I mentioned in the first video, the Dr. Baku's talk about whether we should stay and whether we should go, and how I said that it was all about our commitment. Now, in order to move and progress Nigeria into a state that would be favorable for where we all foresee the country in the next 20 years, it really depends on whether or not we will move back. And even if we do not move back, we have to increase our commitment and to Nigeria and our responsibilities to developing the country. Now, I think that we cannot do this. We cannot rely on the past generations or future generations to actualize the visions that we see. That we have to begin and do something ourselves. So where do I see Nigeria in the next 20 years? Well, I see us as Nigerians giving back more and realizing our stronger commitment to them. I also see, and this is the vision that I have for the entire continent of Africa, but I think that Nigeria will have a very important and valuable part to play because of its position in the world. It is the 5th largest oil producing, exporting country in the world, and so I think for that reason alone that it's going to be vital to the state of Africa in the next 20 years. So we have a big role to play, Nigerians. We as Nigerians have a big role to play in all of this. And what I think and what I believe and what I know about Africa is that it can survive on its own. Africa is one of those continents where it does not need to depend on anything outside of itself for its own sustainability. And in the next 20 years, I hope that this will actually be true, that we have no dependence on anything foreign to the continent, that we do not have to look to other countries or other continents to determine who we are as a people, that we overcome overcome the effects of colonization, that we regain the trust that we have in ourselves, and we're able to work together congenially, and that as Nigerians, as Africans, that we just have an increased level of pride in ourselves. Now, we are prideful people, and as Nigerians, we are definitely prideful people, but a pride that we have in our own country. So in the next 20 years, we're not asking whether or not Nigerians in the diaspora will move back. We will know the answer to that, and we will know that we have to move back, that we can't do what we need to do for Nigeria away from Nigeria, that we're going to have to go into the battlefield, put our foot on the ground and get to it. And so in terms of specific and concrete things that I see for Nigeria in the next 20 years, I don't really have any. There's just general things that I see, and I hope that I was able to convey and outline them in my response to your question, Kola. This question of whether or not we should move back is a huge one, and I think that it is one of those that the ramification of it should call for it to be discussed on a bigger level. So I am opening this question out to you, the viewers, to respond about this. Should we move back or should we stay? What is our commitment to Nigeria? What is our commitment to Africa? And as Kola asked, will Nigerians in the diaspora move back? And how does that affect our development in the next 5 years, let alone 20? So that's the question I pose to you all. Please email me your response or post them on the discussion board or drop a note on the Facebook group. So those were Kola's questions, and thank you, Kola, for asking your questions. Next question comes from Rotimi. Rotimi wants to know these two questions. Wants to know these two things. One, what are your thoughts on possible immediate steps that can be taken to address and solve some of Nigeria's most pressing problems? And he does understand that this is a big question, so he only asks for a few examples. That doesn't make it easier, but that's question number one. Question number two is a fun one. What is your favorite color? So I'll take them in order. And what are my possible thoughts? What are my thoughts on possible immediate steps that can be taken to address and solve some of Nigeria's most pressing problems? Now, it really depends on what you mean by our Nigeria's problems. Now, we can take it in terms of our general problems, such as the problem of our natural resources, the problem of, our health and, the care of our bodies, the problem of education and literacy in Nigeria, the problem of doing business in Nigeria, the problem of, of our economic instability, the corruption in leadership, in business, in normal commonplace interactions. Those are substantial problems that Nigeria faces. So, Rotimi, are you talking about those problems? Or if you want to get specific, what about the problem of blood oil, where Sierra Leone has blood diamonds? We have blood oil, and I would recommend that if you want to know more about this issue of blood oil, please Google the BBC article, Blood Oil, what is it? I have it here. Blood oil dripping from Nigeria. The BBC article, Blood Oil Dripping for Nigeria, will give you more information about this issue and what blood oil means. I'm sure that you all can